Hi guys, so here is your quick run around video for your Cisco packet tracer like I promised you before. So I'll just show you a few run around of the interfaces, and I'll show you how to configure some ports, add IP addresses and all those basic things. And yeah, this video will be very useful for your assessment. So this is a packet tracer. It should look like this when you open it up. And if you haven't installed it, please follow the procedures that I showed you in our class. Go to Cisco Net Academy, get yourself registered and download this copy. So after you install it, it should look like this, and I'll just show you the interfaces. So at the top you have a selection tool, then you have a deletion tool, and then you have a tool that allows you to add some text. So you can add text anywhere, right? So let's just go back to selection tool. At the bottom tray, you can, as I hover over, you can see that these are the networking devices, those are the end devices. You got the connection cables all in there. So after you tap on the networking devices, you will see some routers, some switches, some hubs and access points, right? So let's just configure a very simple network. But just for your assessment, like I have sent email out, so you will be using PTMT as the route. So drag that in, right? So you can drag it anywhere. Just click on that so you can name your router. So I'll just show you. In this case, I will name the router as a test router. Right. So let's name it test router. So that just allows you to name your devices as you go. And as you click on it, click on this router, you can see that there are no ports in this router, right? So as I showed you in the classroom, you can add some modules to your router. So you can just drag and drop a module, right? So it will show that you cannot add a module when the power is on, which is pretty logical. So if you zoom in and slide a little bit, you should have a power button, right? Even if I zoom out, I should see it in my computer, but if your resolution is a little bit lower, you can zoom in and play around. So just tap that button, which means you are turning it off. And in this case, we want to add some gigabit Ethernet ports, so we will be doing that using this module pt-router -nm-1cze. like you can see my mouse over it. So just drag and drop, right? So you can add up to 10 modules. So let's just add 4 modules. Okay, so these are all gigabit port modules. So after you have added your modules, you can just turn your router back on, right? And if you go to command line interface, you will see this prompt, self decompressing the image. That means the ISO for this router is being decompressed. It will just take a little bit of time. Yeah, so we are ready. So let's just close this tab. Let's add a few switches right now. So you can just drag and drop, and for our assessment we will be using 2960 as the switch. So let's just try to configure 3 networks in our case. Okay, and you can even name your switch. So I'll just leave it as it is for now. And this is a lightning cable. It chooses the connection itself. So as you hold control and tap on the lightning cable, you can connect more at once. So just tap on the switch and tap back to the router, right? One more thing, I've said this multiple times in our classroom, but if you didn't get it for some reason, you can always go to the options tab. You can see the ports my cables are connected to, right? So this one's connected to gigabit 9/0, 8/0, 7/0. But if it doesn't show you on your system, just go to options and go under preferences, right? And this should be unchecked in your case, right? It should look like this for you. So just go to option, go under preferences and choose that tab, right? Always show port labels in logical workspaces. So it will just allow you to configure the interfaces in a better manner. So this is a dummy network. As you can see, the lights are lights are red, which means the interfaces are not set up properly. So we don't have any end devices. Let's add some PCs, right? So in our case, let's just add 2 PCs for each network. Just drag and drop, right? It's extremely simple. Let's drag and drop. So let's connect all the PCs. lightning cable, hold control. You can even do it one at a time, like PC to switch. It will just go back. You have to select the cables again. So what I would prefer is just click on control and click on that, so it doesn't change, right? So allows you to connect super easily. That is done. So like I mentioned before, this text tab or place note tab, as you hover, you can add any notes anywhere you want. So give me a second. So I'll just call this as the staff network. All right, and let's just call it the student network, and let's just call it the reception network. Let's call it student network as well. Student batch 2 network. Right, so you can just, I haven't done anything, we are just naming the networks, nothing fancy. So now let's start configuring the switch. So you are still on the node tab, go back to selection tab. That means you can tap on your router, so you can move it around as well. Just don't do what I did right now. Just go back and keep it the way you want it. Right, and just as you click on the router, it should be on this screen for the moment. So just click on CLI, which is command line interface, and we want to configure our router, right? So you can, I have a bigger screen, so it looks like that. If you have a small screen, what you can do is still select the selection tab and select the whole lot and move it across, right? So, and that will show you the second tab as well. So that allows you to look at your network and the interfaces more easily, and you can configure it in a better manner, right? So what I'll do is move it a little bit here. This is nothing, I'm not doing anything fancy. Right, so let's go back to command line interface, and you should see a prompt. Would you like to enter the initial configuration dialog? Let's just save no for the moment, right? So press return to get started, which is enter. So your router is there, you need to enable it, right? So it will change into hash, which is global configuration mode. You can now start configuring the routers. It can be done by configure terminal, or you can even do conft, whatever. So now you can see we have got a config inside the parenthesis, which means we are in the configuration mode. Now you can configure your interfaces, add IP addresses, put ACLs, and configure DHCPs and all those stuff. So let's just start by configuring the interfaces. So what I would do is I'll just write something here. So I want to, that would be the network for staff network, right? And let's just put another network here, 192.168.1.0, another network for student subnet, and 192.168.2.0 as another network for student batch 2 network, right? I can even summarize here. Staff network 192.168.0.0, student network 192.168.1.0, student batch 2 network 168.2.0. all right, so you have got something written here. So this is the thing we will be configuring. It's easier to look at now. All right, so now we want to configure the port number 9/0, gigabit 9/0, right? So you need to know what IP address you need to give to this port. Since this network is 192.168.0.0, that's the network address. Let's choose the first value for this network address as the default gateway address. Okay, so 192.168.0.1. so I can even write it down. So I'll just write down default gateways. All right, For gigabit 9/0, I'm going to be configuring 192.168.0.1. Sorry, 1. Now we have another port, gigabit 8/0. For that, 192.168.1, that's the network and first address. Okay, gigabit 7/0, I'm going to be configuring 192.168.2, that's the network, so first value for that network. Okay, these are our default gateways. And one more thing, the net mask we're using is 255.255.255.0. okay, that's our net mask, which means that first 24 bits are not changing, if you forgot that. So let's start configuring gigabit 9/0. You need to go inside the interface. Give space in gigabit, this is 9/0, right? Press enter. Now the prompt changes to config -if, which means you are configuring the interface. Okay, let's give it an IP address. We have already decided what to give, 192.168.0.1, right? And you need to give a space and put in the mask 255.255.255.0, right? Press enter. You don't see any error, that means your command has worked. Okay, now like I said before, the links are still red. How do you make that green? You need to put no shutdown command, right? You see the green link has changed to green, right? Just press enter. Now you have configured gigabit 9/0. Do the same for the other ones as well. Interface gigabit 8/0. You go inside that interface and put in the IP address. We have already decided it, the 1.1 and the net mask. Perfect, and no error. Let's make that green, right? We love the green lights. Exit, configuring the last interface. Go inside that interface, give it the IP address 2.1, in our case 255.255.255.0. No errors. Let's make that green. Right, all of them are green now. Now let's exit. Let's close that and go back to the selection tool. We have configured the ports now, but let's go inside the computer and go inside desktop and go inside IP configuration. See, these are set in static modes right now, so it's a static IP addressing, but we can't see any IP addresses. Now we need to use something called DHCP, Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, which means we basically set up a server and that server should feed in the IP address. Since for the staff network we are using 192.168.0.0 as our network address, and the first address is already gone for that in this interface, right? So which means the remaining addresses should be automatically assigned to the computers. So how do we do that? Let's close that, go back to our router. All of these things happens in the router, right? So router will have the DHCP which serves the IP addresses to the computers connected to that specific port through the switch. Since we are not in the configuration mode, go inside the configuration mode using configuration terminal, right? And now we are configuring the DHCP. This is the formula or command, whatever you call it. So let's create 3 pools. First pool will serve, let's create pool A, and which will serve any IP addresses for this network, so 192.168.0.0. Then make another pool which will serve for that network, and third pool for that network. All right, so let's create pool A. Okay, we are inside. See, the prompt has changed, dhcp-config, right? So we are configuring pool number A. Okay, now we need to tell it what network do we configure it. So we need to configure 192.168.0.0, right? So we are assigning IP addresses out of this network, 192.168.0.0, and give it the subnet mask. Perfect, enter, right? So no errors. Now we need to tell it what's the default gateway, which means we are telling it what's the IP address already taken by the interface, gigabit 9/0, which is already mentioned on your left hand side, .0.1, right? So that's already taken. Perfect, we are done. And exit. You can even exit. Perfect. So close that console, go back to your router, go back to your computer. You should see this screen. Go back to desktop, go back to IP configuration, static, nothing is there, but we just configured a DHCP, right? So click on that, it's requesting the IP address, and boom, like magic, you get an IP address. 192.168.0.0 was our network. 0.1 is already taken by gigabit 9/0, so the next one available is 0.2, right? Perfect, it's working fabulously. Click on the other one, go to desktop, click on IP configuration, right? And DHCP. If it's fast, always you can slow it down, right? That's the essence for the video. Alright, let's click on this port and go back to desktop and IP configuration. See, you can't see anything. So I would suggest you to give that a try. DHCP, it should not work. See, it keeps on getting stuck over there, and DHCP failed and it's being used. Keep that static. That means we just configured this network. So pool A has been configured. I'll bring that here and I will bring that here. Pool A. We are making 3 pools because we have 3 networks. But for your assessment, you might have 4 networks, right? So let's go back to selection tool, go back to router and configure the second pool, pool number B. You can always do it yourself. I'm just trying to set it up for you. Inside the configuration mode, DHCP, nothing fancy. Let's make pool B, tell it what network it belongs to. So pool number B belongs to 192.168.1.0 as the network, 255.255.255.0 as the mask, right? And you need to tell it what's the default gateway. Default gateway is 192.168.1.1. That's already been taken, no errors, exit. Perfect. Let's configure the third pool. DHCP, pool B. Give it the network address. It's already there on your screen, or my screen for the moment. 255.255.255.0. Perfect. And now also give it the default gateway. It's already taken, 192.2.1. Perfect. So there's some errors I typed in, so you don't need to type everything again. Just press the upwards arrow key. You will get the prompt that was making error, DEFAULT. Perfect. Enter. No error. Exit and exit. So let's close that. Go inside PC for the second pool. DHCP. It's requesting it was successful, right? And you can even make make sure that it belongs to the actual network. This is 192.168.1.0 network, right? So 1.3 it should be 2.2. Click on that, go to DHCP. Yep, so all of them are perfectly set up. So now you can try pinging from one computer to another computer and see if that works. This is the ping tool, or you can even go inside the computer and ping, but this is something easier. So click on that PC and let's see if you can reach PC number 1 within the same network. Click on that, and as you can see at the bottom, it was successful, right? The ping was successful. You can even do it the other way. You just need to know the IP address. Click on that and let's see if you can reach the other computer on another segment. In progress, it's failed, but don't worry, sometimes this happens for Cisco packet tracer. You just need some time to set up all the interfaces and all the DHCPs and IP addresses. Let's just give it a second. It's reaching now. See, just take some time to set everything up. So don't just set everything up and lose heart if it's failing. It's actually working. So this is a very basic setup for setting up a router. So I'll just write down what we covered in this video. We looked at the interface, right? I showed you where you can get the cables, where you can get the networking devices and computers and all the things. Number 2, we looked at how to add modules, right? And number 3, we looked at how to add modules to the router, empty router. That's a summary. How to add devices. It's basically just drag and drop. Then we looked at how to configure the interfaces in the router, which means we are configuring the default gateways, right? Then we looked at how to configure DHCPs, right? The summary for the entire video, and this should help you a lot with your assessments. I'll show you one more thing: configuring the router. Click here, it shows router, right? So you probably want to name your router something else, right? So my router or Gozo's router, right? Anything. So let's just exit, enable it. Oops, I made a mistake. Go inside the configure mode. Right. Now you want to configure the hostname for the router. Right. So that means hash hostname will change the name of the router. I don't like this hostname, so you can change to anything. Gozo's router. Right, didn't work. Hostname and give this space and Gozo's router. Okay. You can change the name for your router. So your router was starting with router, now it's Gozo's router. So you can change the name and set in the passwords and all things. Now there's one more thing. Once you turn this off or you turn your router off, all of the DHCPs, the interfaces and IP addresses that you have configured would just go away. Like it's just like rebooting your router, right? You wouldn't want that to happen, so you can just configure the copy the running configuration as the startup configuration, right? So whenever you start this program, load this one up, it will automatically have all the DHCPs, the interfaces configured the way it did it, and that is one of your requirements for your assessment, right? So in your assessment you are required to submit a report and this packet tracer file. Please submit both of them, zip it together and submit it. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to see your network, I wouldn't be able to do any testing, so I would not be able to give you any marks. So I will just show you how to save that configuration, because if you submit and if you send that file to me, it might not work if you haven't saved the configuration. Alright, so let's just figure out how to save the configuration. It's nothing fancy, it's very simple, okay? To do that, you should be in the global configuration mode. Right, let's copy running config space startup config, right? Destination file name, startup config, that's fine. So it's building configuration and that is okay, which means even if you turn everything off, it will start off with the configuration you have already set up. But yeah, always reach out to me. Do send me the emails if you have any issues about the video, if you cannot access it, or if the sound's not audible enough for you. And since we are almost at the end of the semester, and we have essentially one more consultation time, right? So you can always send me an email and we can do the consultation. I can help you out with any questions that you might have regarding the video, regarding the assessment, or regarding any topics for the entire semester, right? That is it, guys. I hope this would be helpful for you.